Hello everyone and welcome to this Hurricane webinar, which is part of our locked down but not out season. And a very exciting event this is. The world of brand marketing has been spinning for the past 6 months, but as we head back to something like normal, is everything going to be the same as it was? For marketers, a key question is how will we talk to each other? Society has got used to video calls, webinars, online conferences, and quite frankly, lots of us like not leaving the house. Will this mean the end of live event experiences? Is it the nail in the coffin for face-to-face meetings? Or are the virtual events that we're doing at the moment just a fad that we will forget? Could it be that the post-COVID world is actually a bit of both? If so, what will a marketing stack that combines live events along with face-to-face meetings look like? And how will it work? Well, all that and more is exactly what we're going to sort out today. We brought together two highly experienced brand professionals, one from events and one from online video. And we're going to be figuring out what's happened, what's going to happen, and most importantly, how you can make sure your brand gets it right. So without further ado, let's do some housekeeping. First up, who am I? Well, I'm MD at Hurricane, John Mowat. We are a video marketing agency that makes content for brands that is actually worth watching. We work across live events, social marketing campaigns, and TV ads. We also run social media and paid media campaigns for brands and charities. So as part of that, we cover holidays and leisure, consumer products, B2B, pharmaceuticals, loads of different areas. And on top of that, I'm the author of a nerdy book called Video Marketing Strategy. And I've got an online course, which is imaginatively called Video Marketing Strategy. So basically total marketing nerd. As a bonus to people watching this today, I'll be giving away access to my online course for free at the end. And I've also got a discount code on my book. But like I say, you'll have to wait till the end. That'll keep you watching, hopefully. But today isn't about me. This is about bringing experts from two fields, live events and virtual events, and bringing them together to see if we can make sense of what lies ahead. So firstly, we're joined by Alex Pern, Creative Director, Experiential and Brand Agency Clink Clink, and Casper Pedersen, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Casper, Partner Manager at the video platform 23. They will introduce themselves more fully in a moment, but first, let's cover some housekeeping points and then we can get stuck into the subject. So on the right-hand side, you can see the comments tab and the questions tab. It looks like some of you have got in there already with where you are and all that kind of stuff. It's great to see some people from Edinburgh, and we've got Somerset and even Copenhagen. That's Casper. The southeast, loads of people. Brilliant. Hopefully someone is somewhere exotic or warm at least. Okay, so throughout, just keep chucking in your questions. We're going to keep an eye on them, and we're very happy to cut into what we're doing just so we can answer those questions as we go along. The other thing we've got in there on the right-hand side is there will be polls because we want this to be an interactive experience. So you find the polls on the right-hand side. Please cast your votes because we're hoping to use them to get a snapshot of the industry. Okay, there you go, little blitz at the beginning. With that out of the way, let's crack on. So, Alex Pern, it's great to have you on. It's really cool. I was thinking how long we've known each other last week, and I had to stop after, I think I got to about 15 years. I had to stop there, so I had to wonder where that time went. But anyway, it's great to have you joining me today. I was hoping that you might tell us a little bit about you, and also, like, in this crazy time, Alex, what have you actually seen is going on out there, and what's working, what isn't?
Hi, John. Thanks very much. Yeah, I think it is some time since we've known each other, and I've stopped counting as well. But it's great to be here, and thanks for inviting me on. As I said, I'm the creative director at Clink Clink, and I suppose the best way to describe what we do is that we help brands deliver and develop on platforms to communicate to their audiences, and those audiences are often internal staff, they're often consumers, and other businesses as well. What's happened in the last few months? I think it's fair to say that everything's paused. There's a minor understatement, but everything has stopped. But that's been terrifying, but also amazing, because it's given us a chance to implement some changes that I think the industry has been looking for, and the customers of our industry have been looking for some time. And really, I think what's going to come out of this is a better future, and a better experience for people attending events. It's going to give more flexibility with some of the technology and the things that people are going to accept, that are normal now. And I think ultimately, if we can give people a wider range of options, then that can only be a good thing. So yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, thanks for that, Alex. I mean, that's a good introduction. So, Casper, what I'm going to do, I'm going to chuck that over to you. If you could just tell us what 23 you've been up to, and as part of that, what have you seen over the past few months?
Yeah. Hey, and welcome everyone, and thank you so much for inviting me, John. And you pronounced it so well, actually.
Wicked.
Great one. Great job. Can be difficult with the Danish name sometimes, but that was exactly how it should be pronounced. And yeah, I'm working here in 23 as a partner manager. So this means I also have the excitement of actually talking with John a lot also on how Hurricane Media can work with and also how we in 23 can learn from how John is working with the video marketing every single day. And from here, I have to not only speaking with John, but also with other agencies. I have a broad overview of what has going on in the field right now, because I've spoken with a lot like Alex from the event agencies and in the event industry. And also what I've seen is I've not seen the society has stopped. What I've seen instead is that there has been a big transformation. So in my end, it has been more a transformation from going more online and have these more online thoughts than, especially in the event industry, which we also have spoke about doing our reversal earlier. This is what I've seen right now. What I hear and see a lot of event agencies, and especially all around in the event industry, they are looking much faster into the digital world. And I really like a tweet I read on Twitter. I think it's 2 months ago, but it actually said that COVID-19 is the reason why we have the digital transformation, not the CTO or the chief of digital transformation or whatever type of title they actually are using. But COVID-19 was the reason that we actually started looking into the digital transformation, which I think it makes totally sense.
Wicked. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, so basically the world has changed, events have paused, digital's on the agenda in a way that it's never been before. And that takes me to my first poll. Well, I think we're only going to do this one poll, but the point of today is to see how the event landscape might look, right, after COVID. So before we move on, what I want to do is just want to poll of the listeners so we can make sure that we are doing this right for you. So we're going to run a poll here. And the question we're asking is, how do you see your brand's events changing post-COVID? So, are you going to move all of your events online? Are you expecting everything to return literally as it was? Is it that you have no idea what you're going to do? Or do you, like maybe we do, feel that there's going to be a new mix of online and offline events? So the poll should be open and should be on your screen. Look at that. Okay, we've got some great stuff coming in already. Okay, so I'm going to leave that open for another couple of seconds, and then we will close that poll. Okay. Okay, there's still some votes coming in. This is very interactive and very modern. So that's all part of the point. So initially what happened is actually the we don't knows were very high, about 50%, but we have just settled on, I'm going to close that poll. Yes, okay, there we go. And I'm just going to show you those results. So interestingly, 6% of people feel they will return to normal face-to-face events. 12% of people are unsure, but 82% of our listeners believe that there's going to be a new mix of online and offline events, which is excellent because that's what this webinar is about. Otherwise, that would have been quite embarrassing. But yeah, okay. So we now know what that is. Brilliant. Okay. So have you got any thoughts on that, Alex or Casper? Were you expecting such a large swing? Yeah, there we go, Alex.
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting chatting with our clients over the past few weeks, and it's gone from very much 8-12 weeks ago. It's fine, we're going to be back to normal. Everyone's going to be back in the room, shaking hands, having drinks together. And now I think people have accepted that there needs to be a wider range of options for audiences. Now, that in some part is due to the requirements of people working from home, homeschooling. People have a real mix of challenges. And so even if we do get back to some sort of normality and the ability to invite audiences in, I think brands are going to be, and organizations are going to need to be really conscious of talking to staff and customers about what they need and actually how they can attend the events. And I think that's great for the online presence and how we react to that in the future.
It's interesting. It's just interesting that 6% of people are actually going to return straight back to face-to-face, and it's going to be really interesting to see that. But anyway, let's just move on. I just wanted to sort of talk about, we've been talking about brands, what should be doing, but I think it's clear that everybody's going to be doing this mix of live. So can we simply, I mean, this is a loaded question, Alex, so you know what's coming. Can we simply move events online, or are there pitfalls? And I'm going to ask the same to Casper in a minute, but let's just open that question to Alex first. Can we just do the same, or in what ways is it going to be different?
So yeah, it's a great question. I think you can absolutely move online, but you do need to be aware that a live event, by its very nature, is in a room. It's exciting. You've got a stage and or a platform. You've got presenters. You can turn to someone next to you, and you can have a coffee break. And that's those parts of the events that have been organised for years and years. Everyone's very used to that, and it garners some interaction and some excitement. And the jazz hands of events are really important in that sense. I think moving an event online, there are levels that you can achieve. You can keep things really simple and have a few people on a Zoom call. I think the way that we're talking to clients is we're looking at a much more linear process now, where you can start off with a Zoom call, but then you might want to move to a sort of more hosted webinar, as we're on today, and that's fantastic. And we can have a small poll, and we can go through those motions, and actually there's some great interaction. That's quite exciting in itself. However, what we're also seeing is brands want to retain control over messaging, and they also want to play videos and have graphics coming in. Now, trying to do that online sometimes can be complex on some of the smaller platforms or the more simple platforms. And I think we're looking, and the technology's been there for a long time to do this. We're merging all of these things together so that you can bring in professional hosts. You can have a studio setup, where it's a centralized host that really just guides everything and kind of takes the stress out of something dropping out over here and then bringing it back to the studio. For a saving, let's pass over to someone else while we sort that technical issue out. But I think it's some of that can be very much done by individuals and organizations, and the technology's there to do that on a simple basis. I think what we're finding is some brands and organizations they just need some help, and they just need some guidance, and there's no one size fits all at this stage. I think everything's up for question, and it should be at the moment as well.
But just a supplementary question. So do you think, just listening to what you're saying, that you're right, live events are very engaging and they're noisy and in your face, and it's how do we move that to an online thing? So it seems to be that your approach is to put like a professional attitude in the middle of a presenter, or the sort of the personality. Do you think that's the way of maintaining engagement?
Yeah, I think this stemmed out of a lot of conversations that the start of lockdown, everyone started doing Zoom quizzes, and I'm sure there's all the people here have probably done one, and everyone's family joined them. And it started off with a bit of a free-for-all, and then actually everyone realised that you kind of need someone to run it, and so one of your family would be the host. And that's no different with an online event. What you actually need is somebody who can tie everything together. It gives it a slickness and professionalism that sometimes just a Skype call or a Zoom call lacks. And it also gives you a less stressful option when you need to say, actually, I need to play some video. If there's someone in the background that can press go on that, you can concentrate on presenting and you can concentrate on getting your brand message or organization's message across. So it's keeping it simple, but understanding where the limitations are and then using the professional services that are out there to build on that.
Cool, thank you very much. Now, Casper, I'm going to throw this question to you because the reason that we started this whole webinar topic is because I was talking to you about how we move real events online, and you had quite some opinions on that. So, what can we be doing, and what shouldn't we be doing in terms of can we just get a conference and put it online?
Yeah, I'm really agreeing with a lot of things that Alex is saying, and also one point I was also taking notes from when Alex was talking was I also think that we haven't seen all the new formats also that will be created. I can see that there are right now a lot of agencies and a lot of companies who are coming up with new ideas, who are coming up with new formats that we have never seen online or live before. And I really think that there is a big opportunity to create a lot of new formats, because I've already heard people saying that they know how a webinar should be running because they have attended to a lot of webinars during the last 3 months, and they feel like it's almost the same. So people are starting to think of new formats also. People are starting to think of how can they translate and transform their live events into an online event. And and what I've also told you, and also what we have talked about before, Alex, is that I'm not standing here and say, yeah, everything, you can just take your live event and then totally just make an online one-to-one event which will look exactly the same. You have to find new formats, you have to find new ways of present yourself, and also because this will give you also in the future, this will give you just another tool and another activity in your event marketing that you can do. I see online as one thing that you can do when we look at your event marketing strategy, and the physical events is something other. So it's really important that you use this time to actually get to notice what type of online event do I want to create. Do I want to create more lead generation, where I will get sign-ups like doing these webinars, or would I like to have more small sessions where we maybe are in small breakout rooms, like more networking meetings, and then we may need to look into different online conference tools instead, because the technology is very adaptable, and is also super developed, but you need to know what is the goal of your events before you can choose the technology, which is what I've seen during the first month of COVID. A lot of people didn't know exactly what they were searching for, so they were just doing a lot of trials, and when you then ask of the goals and why do you do these events and stuff like that, then they didn't know what they should expect of the digital world, which I really think it's the next step for the event marketing here.
Excellent stuff. I mean, I think one of the interesting things for me, and just to sort of cut in, is like, you can't take an 8-hour all-day experience at a live event or even an award ceremony, I think 3 hours or whatever, just move that to the virtual world and keep it the same. I think whenever you have a tea break, people can go and not come back. So it's like, how do you build all of your content within the distance of a tea break? Have you got any insights on that, Casper, in terms of durations and how long things should be?
Yeah, I know it's more from a webinar perspective, and also what we have seen. This is a study that has been done. It was last year, so I know that it will be, but it tells me that it's difficult to actually, unless you are very great at keeping people engaged for a long period, then the normal average engagement time, which means the watch time that people normally will watch a webinar, will be around 53 minutes. That's the average viewing time. So this also means that the long formats we know from conference can be difficult if we do not and that's why we can't just say we can just take the physical events and just put it online, because when we put things online, there are new things that can get our attendees to be distracted. Like maybe they will pop up something on their computer, maybe they can just turn off the mic, or we cannot see the attendees here, so they could also do other stuff like chatting in the left or in the right button here, or they could also answer emails and stuff like that. We cannot see that, and it will be more interrupted if they do it in the live version of the events, right? So there is also a lot of things that can interrupt our attendees' attention, and that's why we need to find out new formats. We need to do it more engaging. So I really feel like we have a chance of making even better and more engaging events in the future, because all of these thoughts will also transfer into the live events afterwards, because we can really see that we can engage people a lot more by actually invite people more up on the stage, if you can use that term.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting. I think from my point of view, if we stop thinking about like a presenter like doing a keynote for 30 minutes to the whole conference, you know, if that was a video, people sort of start toning out about 3 or 4 minutes. So maybe what we need to be doing is, and certainly a recommendation might be, if you're going to do your 53, 54-minute conference, how would you actually break that down into 5-minute chunks, broken up with animations or something, just to kind of keep refreshing and stopping people from, like you say, zoning out and watching Game of Thrones in the sort of other window. I don't know why I say Game of Thrones. I'm obviously 10 years out of date, but I'm sure there's something more modern. Alex, what about you? What are those tricks that we can, is there tricks from the live world that we can bring into the virtual world so we can just get people's attention on board?
Yeah, I certainly think there is. I think we in events are really good at adding, you know, those nuances to events. And I think when you're viewing something in a room that's live, even when there's someone talking there for, you know, 20 minutes at the top of an award ceremony or a conference, be wherever it is, if it's just someone talking, it doesn't really stand up. It's not enough. And I think the best presentations that we see are the ones that use, you know, some great graphics. It might just be great imagery that they've got. You know, they might play a video, you know, a few different times during their presentation. Now that's just good presentation skills, and it's even more important online to get that right. And I think, John, you know, you were talking about the sort of 4-minute window for you know, for presentations, and I think it is important to really give consideration not only to, you know, the length of time that people will watch, but also the quality, you know, of your output. And that's one of the key things that you'd start to need to reach out to people for collaborations. And, you know, who's going to make you some films? It might be some of your team that could, you know, do some user-generated content. Could be some iPhone film. That's fantastic, and that's really exciting. Build that in. It might be that you need a fantastic professional video made, but you do need to really think about the content. That's key.
So I think what I'm taking from that is almost, I think we're looking to, if you've got an hour-long thing, I think, or 2-hour-long thing, and you're looking to really make it brand, like a mesh of different textures. I think looking to get some talking heads in there, looking to get an animation, looking to get some UGC from your people in, I think the more depth that it has will keep people on. I just want to pick up on something with Casper that we talked about earlier, because what I think we're talking about today is how live events fit into the marketing stack alongside virtual events. So Casper, where do you think online sort of virtual events are most powerful? Is it the top of the sales funnel where we're getting attention, or is it more conversions? You know, where should marketers that are watching be putting their efforts?
I think that's a very good question, but I think actually you can use it, and that's why it's so effective. Right? You can use it for both. You can both use it in the tunnel for in the top of the funnel for awareness, where it will be more. Maybe you will just stream it more so everyone can see it. But what you also can get, and what you also will get by this, is that people actually want to sign. You can see when they sign on. You can also see it from the physical event that they will have a place where they can check in, right? So now they have confirmed that they have showed, but also from here, we can actually see. So we can see who have chat, who have giving us questions during this. when we are doing conference, we have to remember the people who have done it, right? Because we don't have anything who can remind us of who the person was, why they're asking us these questions. But we can follow up on these afterwards because we have the data, right? So this means that we can see, for example, we can see for how long have they watched our webinar. So we can also use this to evaluate how the conference actually has going. And what we also can do is that we can chunk all of the whole, let's say we have a conference for 8 hours, right? But we can actually put it into different sections. So this also has the benefit that people can sign in and on and turn in and off when they really have and like the topic, and they can turn off, email, turn in again, so their attention also will be 100% when they are there. Because I've also been to a lot of conference where I have been there for 8 hours, but I have only maybe seen 2 or 3 hours of the presentations, and the rest of the day, and you see a lot more sitting outside, taking calls and stuff like that. But here we actually give them the chance of choose themselves what they would like to see, and also they don't have to be there in the physical rooms. They can just be in their own apartment or everything. So we can also scale the audience of how many people we actually can have. We are not limited of the physical rooms, but now we are limited more to the Wi-Fi and Ethernet.
Okay, cool. So, Alex, I mean, there's some pretty cool stuff there. I think what we're coming to is there's going to be this mash of formats. There's going to be a difference, but some will be live, some not. But Alex, I was just going to ask you if you, from your perspective, what are the top 3 things that black brands should be considering? Because we've all said we're going to be moving online, right? Everyone pretty much in that poll said they're going to be doing both. But what are the 3 things that they've got to, when they're planning it? How do we avoid making mistakes when we come to mash live and virtual events together?
It's a really good question. I think the first tip I would give is to choose the right format and right platform for you. If you need to do a simple event online, the webinar formats are absolutely fantastic. I think it's work out a timeline within that of what you want to try and achieve. So if you've got an hour-long session, work backwards from the end and then mark on what you need all the way along. Because actually an hour is a long time to fill online. It's a long time to talk for, and it's a long time to engage people for. So how many speakers do you need? Do you need video? Do you need content? Do you need graphics? Do you need... And then I think the second thing would be, can you achieve that? It's really brilliant in this day and age that you can go onto YouTube and you can actually work out how to do most things by watching somebody else's how-to video. And I think that's really key to understand. Some of the simple formats and some of the equipment that you can use in the background is readily available, and you can see what some of the vloggers and bloggers are using, to do that. And you can build some of that into those simple formats. But I think it's to understand as well within that is where your skills run out and then when you need help. And I think if you can bring in at that stage some of those key elements, then that will enhance and also take the stress off of some of the people organising, because events by their very nature are very deadline orientated and can be high pressure. So I think it's important to understand where they run out. The third thing I think would be is to do things simply. Don't start off with an entire TV show format. That's great, and you can do that, and you're going to need some help to do that. But think of the simple things. Think about how things work in events and what works well and how long you can engage people for. But there's small things that you can do, like if someone's watching, why don't you send them something before that they can open during your presentation, and actually they can take something out of the box when they're told to, and there's a nice gift in there. It could be something to eat. Think about this in a slightly 4-dimensional way where you can really just engage people. You can still do those lovely generosity, the generosity of spirit goes a long way, and we shouldn't forget that just because something's online. So yeah, just think about some of the normal things that you would do and implement those as well alongside these great online offerings.
Okay, so you're very much saying, and it's really interesting that your point is, yes, it's virtual, but how do we get some kind of a shared experience into there, whether that's something interactive, but also some kind of shared physical thing like a taking part or anything like that. Okay, so Casper, from your perspective, from the sort of more video side of things, I'm a new brand. I've not really experimented in online events or webinars. So, what are those three things that I should or shouldn't do?
First of all, what you should do is, like Alex also mentioned, use your knowledge. So this means use and create the experience you already knew that all your audience already loved. So this means take and use your experience from the physical events you already have done, and use that knowledge to try to figure out how can we create an experience which will be not one-to-one with what we have created before, but maybe ask ourselves and evaluate the ones we already have done. Why did people attend? What was about this event that they really loved? Was it because we were great at engaging them during the webinar? Was it because we had some nice topics? We have some nice talks, or was it because of the networking events? So so it's more looking down and see, okay, what is the core reason of people attending to our events? So if we know that, that would be my first thing. Secondly, you also need to look at this from, and this is what you can see, is try to see this as a way also, and this is more to do with your mindset, but try to see this when you are creating a virtual or an online event. See this as maybe a monthly or weekly activation instead of doing this big annual conference or events. Because right now with the technology, we can easily we could easily repeat this again in a month and still talk about the same, and still we will have new attendees to this webinar, which will feel and have the same happiness about watching this webinar once again, and maybe for the first time, and maybe someone will sign up and re-sign and see this, and maybe they will see this and have some new thoughts and experience by watching it again. You know it from watching. You maybe have revisit some of your movies where you have watched it for several times, and every time you watch this movie, you still learn something new. And I really think that's also the way of going, and that's why also, like Alex said, it's also great to have on-demand versions afterwards. So you can use what you have recorded, you can use it also afterwards for your promotion, which I think it's super awesome. So this could be also a way of marketing departments actually to get a lot of knowledge, a lot of new content that they can use also for the daily promotion that you will run on social medias, for example, or on your website. And thirdly, see this also as a way of getting new friends. So this means that you can easily invite, like you have done today, great friends to do joint marketing, which of course will help you getting new audience. And also it will help you create a new experience. And at the end, I really think that the event industry also could use all of the new data that they can generate from all the technologies, and also at the end show the big impact that events actually have on businesses at the end.
I mean, that's really interesting for me. I think the thing I've taken, I'm going to open up to some questions very shortly, but I think the thing I've taken from that is that the event cycle tends to have these tent poles. You know, you maybe have one annual conference, a sales event, and you do conferences or whatever, and they're regular, but they're quite big and quite long. So what we're talking about is then peppering the sales cycle with regular small pieces of digital content, which will build up over time. Is that the kind of idea you're thinking?
Yeah, actually, I spoke with a potential client today, so I can just share some new insights. And they told us that they have this big annual conference, but and they normally they will do it. I think it was in October. But right, what the new format they have thought about is instead of having only one online online event now. It was physical before, but instead of having only one event, they actually want to crunch it out. So it will be, I think they turned out to have 4 small events. So it will be from 9 to 11. So instead of having one 8-hour session, they have choose to have 4 2-hour sessions instead. So people, because they have looked at and say we cannot have and maybe grab people's attention for 8 hours in a row. We think it will be better actually to have small snippets, and then but then the 2 hours will be very, very focused. And I think that's a great way of thinking and rethink of how they can transfer some of the thoughts, some of the goals they have with the annual event into the digital world at the end and the online world.
Okay, so we're talking short, snackable, regular. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking on the digital side, and then building it in. Okay, well, should we give this a go and see if we can get some questions in now? Let me just see. Is there any questions coming in? Yeah, loads of questions. Excellent. And it's really small on my screen, so I'm just going to have a look at these. Okay, this is a really good one. A key factor. This is, I think he was in Alicante. Casper, you noted this young man. Okay, so his name was just I'm in Alicante. Anyway, a key factor of conferencing is networking. Are there good creative ways to continue this? And I think this is the hub of the matter, isn't it? You can broadcast as much information as you want, whereas actually you go to a conference to meet new people. So Alex or Casper, who would like to jump in on that one? Alex is going straight in. There we go. Wonderful.
Yeah, this is the $1 million question. Now, I think we're all working on solutions for this, and I think we're trying to come up with really inventive ways of engaging. And actually, I had a conversation yesterday with a client who they have an award ceremony, and by their very nature, award ceremonies are not that much about the awards. They are about, getting into a room, having a fantastic time. It's an occasion, and we were talking about how we could roll out an award ceremony online. Now, one of the options that we're looking into is that actually we build a much more social element to it. We anticipate that even if we can't meet in large groups over the next 6 months, that we'll be able to meet in smaller groups. So actually treating things a bit more like a watch party. So you've got rooms of 6 people, and we link all of those rooms together. We can cut to those rooms, and people can really have a good time and interact with each other. Everyone's on social media, and there's a ticker down the side with images and pictures that a host in a central studio can really interact with. So we're treating it a little bit more like a television program and keeping things much shorter. So, these events would be a 5-hour, marathon before. Now we're looking at, an hour and a half. The awards have got lots of great video content, and we're really, kind of enhancing and, just improving, the technology that's been there for a long time, but we're just using it in a great way and, bringing it all together.
I'm going to go to Casper in a second on this, but I think from my point of view in that, I think if you've got a central broadcast, which is your brand message going to these people, I think there's lots of interesting ways that we can make smaller networking spaces. So as Alex just mentioned, Zoom rooms with a moderator where 6 vaguely like-minded people are encouraged to talk about their problems. So, I mean, I do some live events where I go and you have a 6-person round table and a moderator starts a conversation and you start chatting. And I think trying to replicate that in a Zoom room is actually quite possible. It's just a case of how you get people into the room. But in terms of networking, I think that's one of the positive things we can do is it's almost encourage that behavior bit in the virtual world. And over to Casper, you had something on that.
Yeah, first of all, I can agree more of what you said, Alex, about the TV shows, because I really think that we can learn a lot from this. The first thing that pops to my mind when you talked about this, Alex, was I've watched a lot of X Factor, so I don't know why, but I've watched the finals. And normally, what they will do is that they will show where the family is sitting, and then they will turn in, and then we can watch in their living room how they will react on the winner, right? So I really think that's what I meant earlier in this talk when I mentioned new formats. I really think this is the time see this as your time of also come up with new formats that you have never seen before, not in the digital or in the physical world before. I really think this is the time now, and this is what we see from a lot of creative people who thinks about new formats, right? And additionally, also, John, to what you said, and also about the question, which is about this networking, and this is also the core of maybe, I don't know if I can call it the issue or the problem right now in the event, is that a lot of people don't know exactly what is the core reason of why people are watching our or attending to our events, right? And as I can hear here from Chris's question, is that he have already seen that networking is the most important, and that's why he has to look into conference tools, because they are more aware of, and they are built for one-to-one meetings, and this means that the interactive and communication level will be that everyone is equal. Where if we look at this, now we use a webinar tool, a webinar platform, where there will be some speakers who can be on the stage, and the rest is just more passive attendees, but they can be activated by using polls and stuff like that, and answer and ask questions, right? So I think it's to look at the interactions. How should the levels be? Should there be someone who can stand on the stage and educate people, or would we more like to have everyone equal, if you can say that? And if this is the last one, then we need to look more into conference tools instead of webinars tools. But is it more for education? Then webinar tools maybe would be better, and also for lead generation. So I also think that there is a great way for Alex and the rest of the event industry to actually think about how can we combine what is the strength of webinars and what is the strength of conference tools into building the best user experience.
That's brilliant. And I think, I mean, it's just a follow on. Deborah has asked if there's new technology to incorporate in a webinar. And I think what I've learned is that, like, the thing is, as a marketer, I'm always banging on about what is the emotional driver of your audience? What do they actually care about? And I think there's a temptation when we're talking about platform and technologies to get lost in the tech rather than like, what is the key message that people want to go for? But I think that there is a really interesting piece of technology, which is like shared whiteboards. There's loads of different online whiteboard platforms that are available. And the good thing about those is you can actually mix. Some people at a physical event can actually share like an interactive whiteboard and a sort of messaging kind of cool interactive session with people that are virtual. So there's two hands gone up for the rest of the team. I'll go to Alex in a minute. But in terms of sort of new toys on webinars, I think anything where you can get interactivity from the audience, like on 23, you can do polls and questions and all the rest of it. But I think the interactive whiteboard is a very good thing. Alex, have you got a point on that?
Yeah, I think there's some great platforms out there, some of which we're working with. And one of the ideas at the moment that's being rolled out and is great success and has been used already is that you go onto these platforms, you can click on a link and you go into the main room and view the webinar conference elements. Then you come back out again and go into an exhibition zone. So you would click on an exhibition stand that you wanted to see. You can click on information, view videos and content. You can download information and brochures and as you need to. But more than that, you can click on a button and be linked instantly with one of the sales team. So brands have an opportunity to take people out of that virtual world straight into a more personal interaction. And I think that's really important in this, is that you can attend an event in a kind of macro sense, and you don't really need to engage with it at all. But if you can give people the tools to either link up together, as Casper was saying, and kind of use these rooms and network together, or actually for brands to link customers and potential leads up instantly with those sales teams. And if they're not available, they just click on a window to say, well, I'll meet you in an hour, and they can do it then. So yeah, there's some fantastic opportunities there.
And just to follow up, there's a couple of questions actually. Like Mark from Wuxi has come in. Is there a live event platform and things that we'd recommend? So rather than just racking our brains now to list off things in the heat of the moment, what we'll do afterwards, we'll send an email. And I think we'll send out an email which covers webinar platforms, but also some of these interactive whiteboards, some of the things that Alex has just been talking about there. So there's plenty out there. I'm just looking at a couple more questions. I think there's a really interesting one, again, from Mark, whether we've already reached saturation of webinar and online events. And I mean, there is a good point. There is an awful lot around, we're on one again, but I think from my point of view, it's just like there's too many videos already. There's too many conferences to go to already. the ones that succeed are the ones that recognize the emotional drivers of the audience. What do they care about? And then use that well and answer those questions and sort of thing. So yeah, I think there is already too many. I think there is already saturation. Now it's like, who's going to do the good ones? And I'm just going to nip to Casper on that point.
Yeah, really good question, and because I've already heard a lot of people already, how can we say it? Are not super fans of webinars because they have already seen so many webinars right now, as I mentioned before. So I really understand the question. I really think we need to be better because the webinar is so new for a lot of people. So it's also a way again of making new formats, thinking about how can I be the one who will stand out. Like also, it was the same we saw when everyone could do blog posts, right? Everyone did the same blog post around 7 things that will make that will make you to the heaven, and all of these great blog posts. And we just saw a lot of marketers doing the same, right? So that's just how it is. When someone is seeing others doing well in some areas, then a lot of people will do the same. But see this as a way of actually try to come up with new ideas, new formats, again, new creative ways of interacting and also engaging with your audience. And at the end, this is really where I think this is also a way that people also are saying we are ready actually to sign up to a lot of webinars, because people will not do webinars if they cannot see that it actually have an impact on their business at the end, because there is a lot of signing up, right? So at the end, I think it's a way for people to show that they really want to attend to these webinars. And then again, you can look at it and say, okay, we need to be better. We need to start, as Alex said earlier, we need to start simple, but we will develop with this, and soon we will have better webinars than anyone else. It's the same we have seen in events. Have you asked me for maybe a year ago, then I would say maybe we will have the same thought about the events, the physical events, because all of them was also, for me, looking as the same. So I totally understand why Mark asked this question.
Awesome. Okay, so final. We've got about 10 minutes left before we hit our 3 o'clock, and I'm aware that as Casper has just pointed out, we should be looking at about 54 minutes, I think it was, 58 minutes. So if there's no more questions, which it doesn't look as there is, because we've certainly covered lots of stuff here today, what I'm left to do is to say, thank you very much. It's time to wrap up our webinar. I hope you have found it as interesting as I have. I just wanted to say a massive hurricane hug to Alex and Casper for joining us and sharing their insights. As we promised at the beginning of this episode, there's a special promo code for the audience today. If you Google John Mowatt's Kogan page, you can use the code VMS20 to get 20% off my book. And we're going to post these in a minute, and it will come out in an email later. And also, I'll be sending out a code to my Thinkific course. And that code for that is locked down but not out. But you will get an email on that later. But basically, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone for joining. Thank you very much for Alex from Clink Clink and Casper from